contributions, has partnered with IRENA, the International Renewable Agency, to prepare a very important supporting format, which is called De-risking Policy and Financial Investments of the Enhanced NDC. This is the agenda for today. So my name is Pavlina Zdraveva. I'm a moderator of this event. I work as a project manager on climate change project in UNDP. Opening remarks will be presented by 4 distinguished guests: the Minister of Environment and Physical Planning, Mr. Nasser Noureddini, the Minister of Economy, Mr. Krashnik Bekteshi, the IRENA Director, Rabia Faruqi, and our UNDP resident representative, Narine Sahakian. And then we will have a short presentation of the NDC, which will be presented by Teodora Obradović-Grončarovska. She is UNFCCC focal point and State Councillor in the Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning. Then the IRENA team, Ute Collier and Katarina Hasbani, will present the de-risking report that was prepared by IRENA. And then we will have a session of questions and answers. So all of you will be able to ask questions and provide feedback from the IRENA team or our team or the governmental representatives. The closing of the event will be done by Valentina Stardelova from the Ministry of Economy. I will not be longer, so you are all muted. Please unmute whenever you want to ask a question in the question and answer session. We will start with the Minister of Environment and Physical Planning. Mr. Noureddini, please address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zdraveva. Dear respected colleague, Mr. Bekteshi, dear respected representatives from IRENA, dear respected Mrs. Sahakian, dear representatives from UNDP, dear participants. First of all, let me congratulate everyone who's been participating and contributing to this presentation. I shall keep my statement short because we are all actually more interested in the reports and the finding rather than what we have to say before that. However, though, what I would just like to add to this topic or to this discussion now is the fact that, yes, thanks to the support, of course, and the expertise from UNDP, we have got a new NDC from our country, a rather ambitious one, where we are looking to lower the greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 by 51%, which is a net of 82% by 2030. This is a necessity, and we all know this, and we're aware of the fact that this is a necessity that we need to do that, and then aim after 2030 for a carbon neutral future in order to minimize the risks that we face in the future. Now, the question that we've always been speaking about, and one of the key topics we actually had the debate was on when we presented our NDC, was the financial costs and how do we actually motivate and stimulate the private sector and our citizens to move to more energy efficient and to renewable energy. Hence why I think it is of utmost importance that these 2 ministries, the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Economy, are together taking part on this event to discuss something that is very important, because I think the other third pillar or institution that is also will be involved in this is the Ministry of Finance. We'll be supporting the Ministry of Economy and us to achieve these results and execute our strategy. It is of utmost importance that we get the private sector on board and we find the mechanisms and tools, the financial mechanisms and tools to, as you say, as you call it, de-risk this potential risk we see, and explain to them what it means to be investing in these changes. However, though, one of the key things is, unfortunately, the same goes for the citizens who can actually have a potential in a country like in a region of ours, in a country of ours, we have the abundance of sun. So we need to explain to our citizens that these investments that they're making today, in the medium run, will be cost-saving factors for them in the long run, which means lower bills, lower costs, and as well a modernized private sector. So as I said earlier, I think it is absolutely imperative that we as an institution who proposes this works together very closely with the Ministry of Economy, who is, of course, in charge of the energy. And we need to, of course, have a decent, proper strategy in place with the Ministry of Finance so that we can stimulate these investments in the future. Thank you very much. I look forward to the presentation and the findings.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you highlighted the most important part, that this NDC, the National Determined Contributions on Climate Change, have been developed by all the ministries. So the country has been able to show whole of the government approach to adopt such an important document. And thank you so much for highlighting this. So now I invite Minister of Economy, Mr. Bekteshi, please.
Thank you, dear colleague Nasser, dear Narine, dear Francesco Lacamera, the Director General, all the participants. It's a great pleasure to have the opportunity in order to discuss regarding the energy sector in North Macedonia and all the steps we have undertaken, especially in the last 3 to 4 years when it comes to the decrease of the negative effects of the energy sector that may have within the climate. As already was mentioned by Mr. Nureddini, North Macedonia is more than focused in order to give its contribution and to contribute regarding the environmental protection and the climate change mitigation. Therefore, we have already adopted a new strategy when it comes to the energy development, which is a strategy until 2040, which is focused in 3 scenarios, but we have chosen the most difficult one, which is the green scenario, where we need additional investments, but our main purpose for sure would be the environmental protection. We have, as a Ministry of Economy, for sure, with great cooperation with the Ministry of Environment, the final draft of the National Plan for Energy and Climate by 2030, and we are stimulating the new investments in renewables in the private sector, but also in the state-owned companies, which are mainly the ones which are dealing with the generation of electricity, but also when it comes to the transmission of the energy sector. So when we are talking for the energy sector, we are fully committed in renewables. But in addition to that, I have to mention that as a transitional period, in order to achieve our goal and close the thermal power plants, we are planning to come up with new investments in natural gas, but only as a transitional period, which based on the standards we are constructing the pipelines. Afterwards, we can shift them to hydrogen, which would be the newest technology when it comes to the environmental protection. So at the moment, we have opened the market in renewables, especially in photovoltaics and wind parks. We are using the auction models, which is used in EU, and we have transposed all the directives and the keys. Therefore, there is a competitive procedure where we seek to have an additional installment of more than 700 megawatts by the end of next year. So ongoing is a new tender procedure of 80 megawatts, and the projects which we started with at the moment are constructed. So beside that, within the thermal power plant in Oslomi, we are constructing photovoltaic centrals within the capacity of the existing capacity of the thermal power plant of more than 120 megawatts, and using the new law on strategic investments, we are planning in order to have by next year more than 500 megawatts of photovoltaics installed and put in place within the energy transmission operator in our country. So in general, we are supporting all of the recommendations, all the suggestions, and all the findings that are done with our partners, with the main goal, which would be the environmental protection and also to decrease of greenhouse gas emissions. So thank you very much for this organization, and we are looking forward to come up with new ideas which are based on findings, concrete findings, I may easily say, and afterwards start and implement together with Ministry of Environment, which for sure would be supported by the Ministry of Finance, having in mind the green agenda we have adopted within the government of North Macedonia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all the details that you have presented and to being able to get closer to the audience, the amount of work that the country is already doing in fields of in the area of climate change. I'm very happy to stress and to highlight that Macedonia is one of the rare countries that has fully merged energy and climate policies. So now I would like to invite the IRENA director, Rabia Feruki, to address the audience.
Thank you, Pavlina, very much. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's also my pleasure to welcome you to this event. Very nice also to hear the current developments and the readiness of the country, as was just presented by the distinguished ministers. Let me start by thanking UNDP for the collaborative effort in organizing this event and for their support in developing the report on de-risking renewable energy investment in the country that will be presented today. As we all know, renewables have a key role to play for climate action in North Macedonia, and really the development and implementation of such ambitious and comprehensive NDCs with a large focus on renewables will globally help in the successful achievement of the Paris Agreement objectives, and at the same time support energy security, affordability, while trying to preserve the resilience of the economy and of society at large, provided the right policies are in place. And I think as we just heard, a lot of it is done in terms of the policy deployment already. IRENA has been actively engaged in supporting our member states towards a sustainable energy transition, as you all know, and mostly also providing them with tools and knowledge that can help them enhance and implement their NDCs and strengthen the renewable energy component of the NDCs. We have been working with several partners, including UNDP, NDC Partnership, UNFCCC, UK COP26 Presidency, and the Pacific NDC Hub. And thanks to that, we're actively present in 70 countries around the world. And collectively, these countries represent a total amount of over 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent, and supporting these countries limit their emissions will greatly contribute to achieving the climate goals. Among those countries, our climate action support covers 6 countries in Southeastern Europe. In addition to this support, under the framework of IRENA Southeast Europe Regional Initiative, we're also conducting numerous studies that identify the largely untapped, cost-competitive renewable energy potential in the region, and also provides technical and analytical support to policymakers and investors. A majority of the countries in the region have a carbon-intensive energy sector and end-use applications, like in building and transport. So the path to climate neutrality will require tailored approaches with active inclusion of society as a whole. And we're very glad to see the strong commitment of North Macedonia and a few other countries in the regions in taking this opportunity to collaborate with IRENA and identify policy actions to implement the NDC ambitions or review them. We really look forward to widening support and include a greater number of countries in the region, and basically follow up on the support for implementation. We all know that the pandemic has affected our lives and livelihoods and created considerable uncertainty in what looks a rather challenging post-COVID world. But this crisis also offers an opportunity to follow the 1.5 degree climate pathway, where we obviously need a careful recalibration of stimulus packages and recovery measures. So in the context of the ongoing energy transition, the report that is presented today gives several recommendations on policy and finance to attract private investments in North Macedonia and scale up the adoption of renewable energy technologies in the power sector, as well as in heating and cooling. I wish you a very fruitful discussion and reiterate IRENA's readiness to partner with the region in the transition to a carbon neutral and sustainable energy future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. So everybody's talking about carbon neutral, green energy, but really renewables is essential part of all of this. So thank you for your address. And now I would like to welcome UNDP resident representative, Ms. Narina Sakakyan. Narina, please.
Thank you, Pavlina. Dear Minister Nureddini, dear Minister Bekteshi, dear Director Faruqi, dear participants and guests. I'm really glad to be here today and to have this opportunity to greet all of you on behalf of UNDP. I will try also to keep my welcoming remarks short because we all really interested to hear from our experts. So next 10 years will be crucial for the future of human development and to ensure that for human development, and to ensure that that future is bright one, we should accelerate the development and deployment of sustainable solutions to the world's biggest challenges, having in mind and keeping the climate change in the focus. This is what the Decade of Action clearly demands. As UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on the high-level dialogue on energy last week, access to clean, renewable energy is quite simply the difference between life and death. And we must solve these challenges this decade. And we must start today. Without deep and rapid decarbonization of our energy systems over the next 10 years, we will not reach the Paris Agreement goal of limiting temperature rise to 1.5 degree. And to deal with this challenge, what should be our reaction? As UNDP's response was to strike a bold new path for continued human development through the decoupling of growth from carbon emissions and unsustainable consumption and production. We initiated the Climate Promise, a powerful tool and resource for countries to build back greener and deliver on their pledges under the Paris Agreement. North Macedonia is one of 114 countries which have signed up to work with UNDP on their climate plans or to national determined contributions to the Climate Promise Initiative. And I would like to use this moment to celebrate again the hard-won achievements of the Macedonian government, and particularly the Ministry of Environment, in raising the bar with their new ambitious commitments, high above the baseline climate targets in North Macedonia's NDCs. Of course, we know that the difficult part, the implementation, still to happen, and it's lie ahead of us. To help reduce risks and ensure the efficient implementation of climate actions related to renewables, UNDP partnered with IRENA to help the government and all key players in setting a firm trajectory towards net zero emissions in line with the Paris Agreement on climate change, and to accelerate the clean energy transition by boosting investments in renewables. I'm confident that the Macedonian government will remain an ambitious leader on climate action in the region and beyond. And UNDP will continue to serve as a committed partner and resource in meeting the country's Paris Agreement commitments and accelerating the country's green transition. Our environment team remains at your disposal to support the implementation of North Macedonia's ambitious climate actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Narina. Now I invite Theodora, UNFCCC focal point, to share her screen and to continue.
Yes, thank you, Pavlina. I'm trying to share it. Our idea, actually, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to address this presentation, this workshop, and I'm very delighted to be part of this community. And our idea was actually to present a new infographic developed as a findings, as the main findings from our adopted NDC. Now I'm trying to find it. Maybe Pavlina, you can start it from the website. Actually, it is posted on our website.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me just open it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So maybe we can go slowly. So under the window of nationally determined contribution, please go down. Go down. Yes, there is a special chapter on infographic, just newly posted last week, where you will find all relevant details on our Macedonian adopted enhanced NDC, together with the overall document and technical background document. So please open the infographic just to show how it is developed. Okay, I can go. So please, yeah, please show to the audience what can be found on the infographics. So there are much more advantages of our enhanced NDC compared with the previous one submitted in 2015, not just with regard to the ambition and to the target, but also with regard to the gases covered, to the level of ambition and mitigation actions, policies and measures covered by our current NDC, coverage of emissions, and increase of greenhouse gas coverage. So if you go into details with each window, you will find what are the increasement of each particular window. And if you make comparison between the first NDC submitted in 2015 with this one, you will find so much advantages compared with different criteria. All in all, I will not go in details. So also regarding planning process, there are much more detailed assessments done, which lie on the developments already done in the previous cycles, like third biennial update report, national strategy for energy development, and etc. And also we have included gender divided indicators. We have included chapters on implementation measures and tools how to implement all those policies and measures. And we have identified the impacts of the COVID-19 and the policies put forward to overcome those impacts. So this workshop will help us in covering all gaps and challenges identified in the enhanced national determined contribution, and all of us are looking forward to see the main findings of the document developed by support of IRINA and UNDP. And I would like to thank both international organizations for supporting us in development of this de-risking study, and I'm looking forward and I'm confident that we will continue in implementation of the main findings and create the all possible necessary enabling environment, speaking from the perspective of legislative framework to the strategic framework, to merge all these findings into our overall policy development in climate action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teodora. Now I would call the IRENA team to present the long-awaited report. Ute, Katarina, please share the screen and continue with the presentation of the findings of the report.
Thank you, Pavlina. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here with you. I'd like to, first of all, echo Rabia's thank you to UNDP. It's been great to collaborate with you on this interesting project, and it's good that we're finally here presenting the report. It's been very interesting to work with North Macedonia because there's a clear challenge, but a big ambition to increase renewable energy, and some challenges in terms of the different sectors where we need to increase renewables. So some very interesting findings, which Katarina will present in a moment to you. So the report, it's got a long, as you can see on there, long title. We'll be able to share it soon. Important to see that we are not just looking at the power sector, we looked at heating and cooling as well, which is an important part of energy related carbon emissions, which needs to be tackled. So we did that by analyzing current renewable energy finance and the policy landscapes, focusing on barriers, associated risks, which hold back private investment, and then provide some recommendations on the way forward. We've based that analysis on a lot of work and knowledge which we've accumulated over the years at IRENA. I mean, as you've heard, we are working with many of our member states and analyze policy instruments, financing mechanisms to support a just and inclusive energy transition. And obviously in each country, we realize there are specific national circumstances, which means policies need to be adjusted. And for that, we had some very useful feedback from many stakeholders as well, which we then included in the report. We are used to working with countries, offer tailored advice, capacity building and training. So this is sort of part of our effort to within that framework. I want to now pass over to Katarina, who will go into a bit of detail on the report, and then there will be some time for questions as well. Katarina, over to you.
Thank you, Ute. I want to make sure that everyone is seeing the screen correctly.
Yeah, looks good.
Excellent. It was a pleasure working on this important report for development of renewable energy in North Macedonia. In this slide, I just provide a short overview of what will be presented. We'll give a short recap of the constraints for renewable investment that we have identified as we have been working on this report using IRENA methodology. I'll take you through the recommendations that you will find in great level of detail in the report itself. So I will provide you a short overview of those that focus on the immediate short term and then medium to long term with very short conclusions. We have started with identifying the existing constraints to renewable energy investment in North Macedonia using IRENA's methodology, which you have access to in one of their excellent reports, Unlocking Renewable Energy Investment. These constraints are divided into 3 parts, depending on the stage of renewable energy project development, but also the overall market development. The first one is project startup and development. The second one is investment risk management. And the third area is scaling up of investments. And as you can see on the right hand of the screen, we have evaluated the current situation in North Macedonia, and we've evaluated how do these different barriers apply. And Those that are in red represent high relevance. So that means that they need to be addressed as a priority. Those that are in green are of low relevance, which means that you have progressed significantly on them. And of course, the political risk, policy and regulatory risk, but also currency risk are those that represent low relevance. However, there are two groups of barriers which are addressed through our recommendations. The first one is project startup and development, and the second one is scaling up of investments. And the picture that we present here is very common for young markets for renewable energy, such as North Macedonia. You can also see from here that a lot of the risks and barriers that we have identified pertain to finance, hence the relevance of this work. Now, moving to heating and cooling, as Ute mentioned, use of renewable energy in heating and cooling has a lot of potential. It is also an area that is comparatively more complex than power in terms of deployment of the technology solutions. We have identified 3 areas of barriers that are detailed in the report, and I'll address them in the recommendations. The first one is regulatory barriers that pertain really to the standards of the different types of equipment that are used for heating and cooling. The second one relates to the investment costs, the upfront costs of renewable solutions for heating and cooling and the related energy prices. And third area, of course, is the customer awareness and motivation to switch, which needs to be in place for this specific type of renewable energy technologies. Now, I want to go and talk you through the recommendations. This is a bit of an overview of everything that we have put together, and it's a bit wordy. I really like the graphic that was presented by UNDP, which gives a great visual view of the different type of opportunities in renewable energy. But anyway, I'll take you through the details later. But what I want to mention here is that what we recommend is a double focus, immediate implementation of very specific actions by the government and the development finance institutions, combined with focus on the long term that would prepare for scaling up of the market through selected type of instruments, such as standardized contracts or green bond issuance. For government, the priority lies with implementation of the policy and regulatory priorities that you have already identified, development of local capabilities, not only in what is the renewable energy sector, but also the finance sector. Possibly provision of government guarantees for large-scale projects, raising awareness about the different tools and mechanisms that you have put in place, and progressively building what we call in this presentation a renewable energy fund, though it can start as a type of task force or facility, which will serve as an interface with development finance institutions. And for the DFIs, we recommend collaboration through such a fund or facility, building of sector capabilities and support for project preparation via grants, technical assistance, and other type of instruments, including those for risk mitigation and building of on-lending facilities. So as you can see from this slide, we consider and we recommend that the collaboration between government, development finance institution, and progressive involvement of private sector players with the objective to get involved institutional investors over medium to long term. That's what will be crucial for scaling up of renewable energy market in North Macedonia. And of course, we also recognize a lot of progress that has been made, and projects such as the announcement for the Bogoslovec wind farm earlier this year, I believe in June. The project has raised 51 million euros for I believe it's 36 megawatts of wind capacity. So that those are great examples to follow. Now, let me take you through the recommendations specifically for the government of Macedonia. We have identified 6 areas. The first 2 pertain to creation of enabling environment, first for the power sector and then second for heating and cooling. In terms of power sector, we have few recommendations. The first one concerns further development and especially over medium to long term suggestion to provide more details on the evolution of capacity or budget caps for renewable energy technologies, which would provide more transparency for the investors. For self-consumption, we recommend update to the existing rule book and creation of a repository of self-consumption, existing self-consumption capacities. We also recommend consideration to introducing demand response programs that could complement the on-site power generation. Finalization of a standardized European energy certificate system for guarantees of origin could also help to attract additional financing from outside of the country. And we recommend that the government pursues the planned changes in the power system, which are detailed in other pieces of work. I have talked very briefly about heating and cooling. Here we have few recommendations that are very specific for this sector, and they include suggestion to issue additional regulations for efficient appliances for heating and cooling, possibly legal requirement for phase out or replacement of equipment that has high emission of CO2. Also introduction of financing mechanisms that help to address the high upfront cost of this type of equipment, raising of awareness, and overall we recommend further work on development of district heating systems and generally district energy infrastructure, which indeed we recognize is a very complex system, though it is necessary to achieve the full potential of renewables in heating and cooling sectors in your country. The third area is cross-cutting, and in the report you will note we detail 2 recommendations. The first one concerns providing more granularity on government support in your specific policy and action measures. Currently, the amounts combine government and private sector contributions, so giving the transparency on how much government will contribute would be beneficial to attract private sector investment. And the second recommendation really concerns the transition that was already mentioned on this call, using, for example, natural gas as a transition fuel, but providing, again, granularity on the transition and also granularity on the phase out of the different type of subsidies for the fossil fuels towards renewable and clean energy in general is beneficial for attracting investment in this new area. On this slide, I just want to mention recommendation number 4, which concerns provision of government guarantees for some of the larger scale projects. You could look into provision of such guarantees, especially for projects that wouldn't have development finance institution participation via one of your ministries. For recommendations 4 and 6, which concern creation of a dedicated renewable energy fund and consideration of lending options to disburse those funds, I will go on to the next slide, which detail a little bit more what are the different recommendations that we have made. And we've had this discussion around the word fund. You know, it can start as simply as a task force or a facility between the government and development finance institutions. It can end as a formal institution. The idea here is to create a platform that would allow the government of North Macedonia to engage with development finance institutions and leverage all the resources that they have to offer, which can be financial, but can be also process oriented. and that's really the second recommendation is to use what we call this renewable energy fund as a support for project preparation and facilitation, which is a barrier for further development of the market right now. It can be used as well as a way to streamline some of the institutional procedures, make them simpler, faster. The fund can facilitate, of course, access to capital by leveraging what DFIs have to offer and combining it with private sources. Also initiating finance policies that are adapted to the needs of the market, and this can be lower interest rates, for example, for renewable energy projects. And finally, building of capacity for the different type of stakeholders from renewable energy sector, but also from the financial sector, could be done via fund and its different project and facilities. Now, of course, the fund will be just a source of financial resources. These need to be dispersed, and there are different ways how this can be done. We have recommended in the report few of them. The first one is what you might already know via, for example, the EBRD's green credit lines. Creation of on-lending facilities has a proven track record in the region for energy efficiency and to some extent for renewable energy. It allows basically sourcing of capital at lower cost from DFIs that have access to such a capital and then passing it on to government and selected commercial financial institutions in your country. There are a few other ways that you might decide to disburse the funds through loan syndication, subordinated debt, and convertible grants and loans. Now, passing on to the development finance institutions, they are not on this call except UNDP, but development of capabilities. This is already done via a certain number of projects, but it may continue. One of these projects actually is facilitated
Тест на превод.
Climate Investment Platform is a collaboration between IRENA, UNDP, Sustainable Energy for All, and Green Climate Fund. This platform offers support to projects in renewable energy. There are other platforms that could be developed and supported via DFIs. Then the second priority is really using the Renewable Energy Fund to design
на фондът за обновлива енергия, за дизайниране на план за различни видове на плащане на финансови ресурси, кои може да се комбинира со креација на техничка помош за технологијата со која ќе се бавите во наредните години. Особено тие што се поразвиени како соларна енергија и енергија од ветер. Трета терија каде што DFIs може да помогнат е во диверсификација на финансиските инструменти, особено во предвид во COVID, за краткорочен обрт на средства, проблемите кои малите компании ги имаат со тоа. Кривањето на свеста е изненадувачки уште голем јас, не само во Македонија, туку и во други земји. Тоа продолжување на комуникацијата и кривањето на свеста, не само за техничките и за финансиските аспекти на секторот, е многу важно. Ова е голем број на приоритети за краток рок. За насредени долг рок ќе бидам кратка. Ги спомнам само овие 4 области кои ги идентификувавме како области на кои може да се фокусирате. За да ги донесете онлайн за околу 2 години. с инструменти за скалирање на проекти за енергетска ефикасност и носење на повеќе инвеститори. Една е креација на стандардизирани договори, кои би изготвили одреден стандард на due diligence на процесите. Владата може да ги инициира овие процеси. Исто така може преку финансиските институции. Двете се случуваат во други земји на светот. Исто така и агрегација на помали енергетски асети. Примерот Јордан, каде што има агрегација на неколку соларни фотоволтаични проекти, кои донесе бенефити за пристап на капитал по помала цена. Секако издавањето на зелени обврзници од голем интерес, особено ако ги видиме во Србија новите guidelines. Зелените заеми може да бидат алатка која може би попригодна за поразвиен пазар, но сепак е нешто што треба да се земе во предвид. Владата може да ја земе иницијативата во креирање на овие водичи за зелени заеми. Крај би сакал да зборувам за финансиските регулации. Знаеме дека има доста работа во ова поле во контекст на пристапот кон Европската унија. Видиме како проекти за енергетска ефикасност може да имаат подобар пристап до долгорочни заеми. Тоа е крајот на мојата презентација. Врска со нашите заклучоци, тие се релативно едноставни, затоа што имаш толку голема инерција во земјата која се изгради во насока на развивање на обновната енергија. Гледаме многу позитивна енергија и од приватниот сектор и од инвеститорите. Затоа овие препораки се како да се заекне она што е веќе почнато и да се охрабри соработка меѓу владата и институции за развојно финансирање. Благодарам. Благодарам, Катерина, за деталната презентација.
And also from Serbia colleagues, which might tell us later a little bit more about green bonds and how they have introduced it. But to be in line with the agenda, I would like first to ask our distinguished guests, the ministers, or Narina or Sanya, do you have any questions for the presenters? And then to start with the questions that are already written in the chat. Or anyone interested to join and to set questions, just raise your hand or write in the chat.
Pavlina, I think you can go directly to the questions in the chat and from audience.
Okay. So Ilko Iliev wrote what solar and wind power capacity is expected to be installed in North Macedonia by 2025. Valentina, will you be able to address this question?
Yes, of course. I will continue in Macedonia.
Yes, translation is available.
I hope that translation is ongoing.
Yes.
Што се однесува до инсталираниот капацитет на обновливи извори на енергија во Република Северна Македонија, ние Министерството за економија во соработка со Министерството за животна средина изготвивме интегриран национален план за енергија и клима, кој всушност е разработен во овој извештај кој што беше презентиран. Всушност се детерминирани мерките кои се предложени во Националниот план за енергија и клима. Јас не би сакала во овој момент да зборувам со конкретни бројки за инсталиран капацитет, бидејќи нашата интенција е всушност инсталираниот капацитет од обновливи извори на енергија во државата до 2025 година да го достигне минималниот капацитет кој што сега го имаме од необновливи извори на енергија.
Thank you so much. Maybe you could also address this second question. How does
Останатото ќе биде детерминирано, односно конкретниот инсталиран капацитет ќе биде детерминиран и со програмата за реализација на стратегијата за енергетика, која што исто така во овој момент ја изработивме и за која што во изминатиот месец имавме јавна расправа.
Thank you. Valentina, would you be able maybe to address also this second question from Elia? How does North Macedonia engage with private sector investors as regards renewable project development and financing?
Ако може да продолжам, ние како Министерство за економија активно работиме на програмата за реализација на фидин премиите во државата, која што новина ја воведовме со Законот за енергетика, кој што е во потполност усогласен со директивите и регулативите на Европската Унија. Овој финансиски механизам овозможува атрактивност на приватните инвеститори и оваа година, како што беше и претходно укажано од министерот за економија, објавивме нова тендерска процедура, која што е во моментот во тек и се очекува да бидат пласирани, односно да бидат доделени 80 мегавати инсталиран капацитет за изградба на фотоволтаични електрани на приватно земјиште.
Thank you. Penny has...
Не треба да ги изоставиме и домакинствата, затоа што интензивно секоја година во континуитет спроведуваме програма за поттикнување на искористувањето на обновливите извори на енергија кај домакинствата. А исто така, последната новина на која што оваа година работевме, а која што е исто така многу значајна, се однесува на воведувањето на биогоривата, односно подготвивме правна рамка за нов закон за биогорива во транспортот, за кој што во моментов ја стартуваме процедурата за негово усвојување од владата. И она што е многу значајно, за кое што денес всушност се зборуваше и препораките кои што се дадени во извештајот, главниот водич за спроведување на сите овие политики е всушност Националниот план за енергија и клима и мерките и активностите кои што ние како држава, како влада треба да ги реализираме, се идентификувани во Националниот план за енергија и клима и истиот всушност треба да во наредниот период да биде донесен од владата и тој да биде патоказ како нормално подпомогнат со препораките од овој извештај како да се зголеми атрактивноста кај приватните инвеститори.
Thank you. Penny has a general comment question that refers to providing of government guarantees. Experience is such that once government guarantees are provided, it is extremely difficult to win investors off this de-risking mechanism. Moreover, fiscal space for these guarantees is severely constrained and is limiting investment. Maybe can you tell us more if the government is planning to proceed with the governmental guarantees, and maybe IRENA team can follow up and address also this comment from their experience.
Во однос на гаранциите за потекло, свесни сме дека овој механизам за поддршка досега не беше имплементиран и токму на таа тема во изминатиот период подготвивме измена на законот изготвивме измена на законот за енергетика со која всушност треба да се воспостави овој механизам за гаранциите за потекло. Што се однесува до гаранциите кои што ги дава државата како по пат на значи јавно задолжување, како јавен долг, нашите, а кои што всушност треба да ја помогнат реализацијата на големи проекти во областа на енергетиката, да сепак се уште треба да се направат измени на законот за јавен долг, тоа е и препорака од меѓународните институции, кои што всушност треба да го за многу поуспешна имплементација на ваков вид на проекти.
Valentina, you're muted. We lost you.
Pavlina?
Yes, we can hear you.
I was finished.
Okay. Katarina Uta, someone from the IRENA team, would you like to follow up on this question about government guarantees?
I can mention just, and then if anyone wants to add from the team, but we have mentioned this recommendation of guarantees only for selected large-scale projects, and indeed not as a first priority. So it's a very good point that was raised, and the opportunity to provide the guarantees should be studied at the right moment.
Thank you. Elena Nikolovska has a question: how important to attracting investment is strong governance structure for implementation of the NDC and the clear division of roles within both central institutions and local governments? I think that this was mentioned by both ministers, but maybe someone from the Ministry of Environment would. Teodora, would you like to reply to this question?
Pavlina, I would also like to hear Katarina Hasbani, Ms. Katarina Hasbani, if she would like to answer, because she presented the analysis, but also someone from the Ministry of Environment. Thank you.
Okay.
So the question was related with Elena's question?
Yes.
Потполно се сложувам со прашањето на Елена дека е неопходна governance, управување, така го преведуваме, и на централно и на локално ниво. Она што е наша идна задача, за која што веќе аплициравме до Европскиот фонд, значи за добивање на дополнителни ИПА средства преку ИПА 3 програмата. Првата фаза е помината, значи е одобрен предлогот, е да направиме ревизија на се уште неусвоениот и на драфтот на законот за климатска акција, да биде усогласен со новата governance regulations на Европската унија, значи Energy Governance Regulation. И мислам дека со тоа ќе обезбедиме одговор на ова, иако и во сегашната формулација на предлогот или драфтот на законот не е уште во предлог фаза, имаме ставено механизми и обврски на општините да ги изработуваат со своите планови во согласно со националните цели, како оние за митигација и намалување, така и оние за адаптирање кон климатските промени. Значи даваме за прв пат и правна одговорност и на единиците на локална самоуправа и обезбедуваме пошироко учество на сите засегнати страни на неколку начини и преку учество во електронска платформа која во моментов се изработува. Значи не само и на невладиниот сектор, туку и на граѓаните и на сите други засегнати страни со цел добивање и овозможување на консензуален пристап во креирањето и донесувањето на политиките. Благодарам.
Thank you, Teodora. Katarina, would you like to add?
I can, unless someone from the IRENA team wants to talk. What I wanted to mention is that indeed governance is very important, and the combination of central and local governance in particular. Our report did not cover this topic specifically. However, IRENA has very good publication, at least one or maybe few, on governance and support that, for example, cities can provide to development of renewable energy. So I would direct you there. I will put a link in the chat so that you can access it easily.
Thank you. I fully agree that the relation between central and local government is of utmost importance in enhancing implementation of all the ambitious climate actions that are planned in the country. And therefore, I'm glad to see that the next question come from municipalities themselves. Mr. Ljubčo Dimov asked when the barriers for getting approval for installing photovoltaics up to 4 kilowatts on households for own use, and when possibility to sell the extra electricity generated to the electricity grid will be provided.
To se odnesува до она што е уредено со нашиот правилник за обновливи извори на енергија, каде што инсталираната моќност на фотоволтаици за домаќинствата не може да биде поголема од 4 киловати за сопствена потрошувачка. Имајќи предвид дека од страна на енергетската заедница беше издаден водич, guidelines, како да се изготви регулативата и како да се дадат предности при инсталирањето, од страна на Министерството за економија беше констатирано дека е потребно да се направи најпред една првична анализа како препораките дадени во овој guidelines бидат соодветно аплицирани во нашата држава. Таа првична анализа е изготвена, но во моментов се прават напори да се обезбеди техничка помош со цел да се направи една комплексна анализа која што ќе ги идентификува не само ќе го идентификува и другиот начин на всушност другиот начин кој што не е воведен во нашиот правен систем, а тоа е да се откупува електричната енергија која што представува вишок. Значи не само нет метеринг, да имаме и нет билинг. Свесни сме дека постои голем интерес за инсталирањето на фотонапонските електрани, особено кај компаниите, кои што во изминатиот период конкурираа на еден тендер кој што всушност идејата беше инвестиции во ситуација кога имаме ковид пандемија и резултатите беа навистина за поздравување, иако значи во случајот имаме само значи можност за користување на произведената електрична енергија за сопствени потреби заради тоа што во овој момент е таква правната регулатива.
Thank you. I guess Ljupčo has one more question. Please unmute.
Благодарам, Павлина. Овде е повеќе проблем во законот за градба, односно патот по кој ги водиме заинтересираните граѓани за да бараат некаква дозвола. Тој пат се таа дигитална платформа што постои во СЕЛС, по кој буквално за една постројка од 4 киловата, нив таму им се бара како да бараат зграда со архитектура, со статика, со ѓаволи, врагови, значи во еден затворен круг кој што апсолутно ствара проблеми кај граѓаните. Потикнавме иницијатива преку ЗЕЛС, чекајќи го новиот закон за градба, барем Министерството за транспорт да даде едно упатство кое ќе биде пропратено до сите општини. Сметаме дека тоа треба максимално да се олесни, да се сведе на една електрична шема, имотниот лист кај што ќе се става и ништо повеќе. Но верувајте, интерес постои, ова е еден огромен фронт на можности за обновливи извори во кои граѓаните сами ќе инвестираат, но за жал ние сме врзани во тие проблематики формални кои што се однесуваат на процедурите. И уште една постапка која сметам за многу битна, исто е покрената во некои наши проекти, тоа е да ги формализираме можностите за постоење на енергетските задруги, не само стамбените задруги, и на тој начин да отвориме уште едно поле, една можност преку тоа задруга, што е пракса од европските држави, посебно од Германија, да отвориме можност за на тој начин да зголеми бројот на обновливи извори на енергија за производство на струја. И мислам дека мораме тука, мене ми фали дека не постои координација меѓу министерствата и дека она што е добро во едни закони за да се спроведе е условено со некои други измени во други закони или подзаконски акти кои остануваат недоречени и затоа не го користиме патот да имаме многу поголем продор на обновливи извори на енергија врз база само на овие два факта кои ги кажам. Благодарам.
Благодарам, Ljupčo, за иницијативата. Можеме и ние како Министерство да ја поддржиме вашата активност, односно вашата иницијатива за измена на Законот за градење. затоа што од наш интерес е да се спроведуваат мерките, односно целите за кои што сме превземале обврска согласно нашите обврски спрема енергетската заедница.
Thank you, Valentina. We have two more questions. One is from Alexander Dukovsky. One of the barriers mentioned in the study is the regulation and legislative barriers. Any serious investors at this moment would be hesitant to enter a market where rules are not particularly set. How much this has effect on the overall investment environment in Macedonia? And when will all the necessary supporting laws and bylaws be developed and adopted in order to improve the investment environment and investment security in the country? I think that about adopting the laws on a couple of occasions has been highlighted that the procedures for adopting various laws and sub-legal documents is already underway. But if Irena team or Valentina would like to add something, please.
What I can add and clarify is that, I mean, indeed, the speed of adoption and progress is important. Though investors, they don't look just at what is the situation in certain point in time, they look at the track record over the past and what is planned, they look at the trajectory. So as long as there is progress, positive progress in the direction of adopting the new legislation, as you've mentioned, Pavlina, this is viewed positively, and so far North Macedonia has done a lot of progress there. So keeping up with the trajectory is what the investors will be looking at.
Thank you. Emir has a question. How will 1,200 megawatt of solar PV and 750 megawatts of wind power will be integrated into a system with approximately 800 megawatts of installed capacity? My question is because the sources which are being planned are non-hydro renewables, which are intermittent. Are there any plans for storage, new interconnections, and increased trade with neighboring countries?
Дали може јас?
Yes, please.
Во однос на овие 1200 мегавати и PV и 750 мегавати ветар, тоа се проекции кои што се содржани во документот Националниот план за енергија и клима. Што се однесува, значи не до 2025, туку до 2030 година. За да можеме да зборуваме за овој капацитет инсталиран, секако дека овие мерки кои што се предвидени во планот за енергија и клима може да бидат односно имплементирани само доколку имаме во предвид и останатите мерки, бидејќи тие на тој начин само би можеле да го решиме прашањето за сторидж, за складирање на електричната енергија, затоа што според планот за енергија и клима нашата држава сега е увозно зависна од електрична енергија, но со инсталирањето на се наметне прашањето за складирањето. Така да во однос, ако детално да разговараме и да направиме по-конкретни планови.
Thank you, Valentina. Alexander, would you like to ask a question or to add?
No, to add something on the discussion, on Valentina discussion about this question. So just to clarify some things. In the strategy and in the strategy for energy development and in the National Energy and Climate Plan, 1,400 megawatts of solar are planned and 750 megawatts of wind are planned up to 2040. So we are talking about the period up to 2040. This is very important. As a part of the program for the realization of the strategy, we made a detailed analysis about the integration of these power plants into the network. And also from the transmission system operator side, also the green scenario from the strategy was tested. They found that around 1,000 megawatt of solar and 750 megawatts of wind can be incorporated in the system, integrated in the system without any problem. After 1,000 megawatts of solar, we have to have some storage in the system. Also, it's very important for the balancing of the energy system that the plan is to build this Chevron pump storage, which can serve as power plant for balancing of the system. Also, there is another mechanisms in the strategy we're planning, also the electrification of the transport sector to serve as a storage. But as Valentina said, there is another option that should be taken into consideration in the long-term strategy on climate action. Hydrogen is considered as a possibility for the balancing of the system, while up to 2040 we have to use the natural gas as electricity production from natural gas as a balancing mechanism in the system. So all these things are considered during the development of the strategic documents in the country.
Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Natasha Dokovska for her kind words. And Valentina, I think that we have one more interesting suggestion from Tino Alexov. You may want to address this and wrap up as planned, because I see that a lot of people has already left.
Да, ова прашање е конкретно за нас, за Министерството за економија, и ние сме свесни дека сме премалку луѓе за да одговориме на обврските кои што ги имаме. Но можам да кажам дека работите не се застанати, се движат. Министерството за информатичко општество направи една анализа во основа на која се укажува дека е потребно да се формира директорат за енергија во Министерството, а следниот чекор најверојатно ќе биде и обединување на политиките за животна средина и на енергија. По примерот на другите земји од соседството, каде што постојат посебни министерства за енергетика и животна средина, нашите напори се движат во таа насока да го зголемиме бројот на вработените. Имавме неколку огласи годинава со цел да можеме соодветно да одговориме на врските. По однос на второто подпрашање за фондот за енергетска ефикасност, би сакала да ги информирам присутни дека проектот со Светска банка, кој што е отпочнат да се имплементира, вклучува развој на соодветна рамка преку која треба да се воспостави фонд за енергетска ефикасност, кој што во првиот период треба да го подржи финансирањето на јавните згради. Во моментов се отпочнати активности за ангажирање на консултант кој што треба да направи сеопфатен преглед на состојбите и да предложи решение како тој фонд за енергетска ефикасност ќе функционира, од кога ќе биде воспоставен во првата фаза. Најверојатно ќе биде предложено и законско решение за функционирање на фондот за енергетска ефикасност во рамките на Македонската банка за поддршка на развојот. Понатаму треба да се донесе програма за работа на фондот и да бидат предложени финансиски механизми кои што треба да го поттикнат искористувањето на мерките за енергетска ефикасност не само во секторот згради, туку и во секторот индустрија, секторот транспорт. Ние се надеваме дека во опфатот на фондот ќе влезат и проекти за енергетска ефикасност кај јавните предпријатија со оглед на тоа што потрошувачката на електрична енергија кај јавните предпријатија е навистина голем трошок во нивното секојдневно работење.
Thank you, Valentina. I think that I can give you floor to wrap up and we can finish this webinar today. From my side, I would like to once again thank you all for being with us today and hope that we can share more good experience like this in the region, and looking forward to attending some webinar from our colleagues from Serbia on how they were able to establish green bonds in their country. Valentina, please wrap up so we can close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavlina. Најнапред би сакала да се заблагодарам на UNDP и на представниците на Ирена за изготвениот извештај кој што се надевам дека ќе представува патоказ во нашите идни активности не само на Министерството за економија, туку и на владата. Особено ми представува задоволство тоа што извештајот всушност ги опфаќа препораките на краток рок за кои што е евидентно дека имаме имплементација, особено во проекти каде што значи имаме фокус на постоечки проекти кои што всушност треба да биде комбиниран со и кој што всушност ќе бара соработка со институциите внатре во државата, но и соработка со меѓународните финансиски институции. Свесни сме дека подигнувањето на јавната свест и исто така битен фактор за реализација на сите инструменти за финансирање. Во однос на соработката со финансиските институции, би го споменала механизмот на јавно-приватно партнерство, за кој што и ние идентификувавме дека е итекако важен за реализација на големи проекти за обновливи извори на енергија, а Исто така, многу е значајно да се напомене дека финансиските механизми за зградите ќе очекуваме да бидат имплементирани, како што кажав, преку фондот за енергетска ефикасност. На долг рок во однос на препораките што се презентирани во извештајот на долг рок, би сакала да укажам дека стандардизираните договори се итекако битен предуслов за да можеме да зборуваме за имплементација на проектите. Тие стандардизирани договори, работата на овие стандардизирани договори мора да ја отпочнеме час поскоро, иако веќе, да кажеме, во пракса има еден дел кој е за Power Purchase Agreement зборувам, веќе се имплементираат инвеститорите од обновливи извори на енергија. Во однос на овие стандардизирани договори, нашите размислувања се дека всушност многу ќе потпомогнат за реализација на инвестициските можности и она што е особена важност е дека сите, кои што посебно инвеститорите, мора да бидат сигурни, а таа сигурност може да ни обезбеди само еден ваков стандардизиран договор со цел да се намалат ризиците. Малите проекти од обновливи извори на енергија исто така се важни. Имаат големи трошоци во споредба со големите проекти, но агрегаторите се новина, но значи нивната реализација може да се потпомогне со агрегаторите. Тоа е всушност начин како да се обединат повеќе опции, односно повеќе инвеститори, за да можат, значи, да се обединат во смисла нивната електрична енергија да им се помогне да ја пласираат електричната енергија на пазарот. Тука зборувам и за обврзници, тука зборувам за принципот агрегатори кои што имаме легислатива, но се уште сме, да кажеме, далеку од имплементација. И на крајот, по однос на препораката за зелени обврзници, која што е нотирана во извештајот, можам да констатирам дека тоа е интересна алатка
I can conclude that it's an interesting tool
инвеститори,
for institutional investors.
но најверојатно ќе бидат потребни измени во регулативата за финансирање, особено во банкарскиот сектор.
In the laws in the banking sector will probably be needed before this can be realized.
Она што е најважно за нас, како луѓе што работиме на креирање на политиките во областа на енергетиката, а кои што имаат за цел да ги подобрат условите за живот на нашите граѓани, да ги намалиме емисиите на стакленички гасови кои што произведуваат од енергетскиот сектор е дека во нашите планови е зацртана привлекувањето на инвестициите во обновливи извори на енергија и како стратешка цел декарбонизацијата и искористување на мерките за енергетска ефикасност. Она што всушност го налага и самиот национален план за енергија и клима и комбинирањето на политиките и мерките кои што се предложени во него, би било успешно само ако се комплементарни политиките и мерките една со друга. Значи, и од тука подигнувањето на јавната свест за зголемување на инвестициите во обновливи извори на енергија, секогаш треба да го опфаќа и сегментот на енергетската ефикасност. Тоа е мојата главна поента на, да кажам, која што произлегува од овој извештај. Значи, секогаш треба да разгледуваме можности како да инвестираме во обновливи извори на енергија, меѓутоа и да ги разгледаме и можностите како да ги намалиме, како да ја намалиме потрошувачката на електрична енергија во било кој проект. Токму тоа треба всушност да се обезбеди преку да го искористиме искуството што го имаа досега локалните банки, да го искористиме искуството на меѓународните финансиски институции и секако да ги разгледаме и соодветно да партиципираме, да учествуваме во сите нови можности, како што е, например, Зелениот климатски фонд, за кој што аплицирахме пред 1 месец како држава, како и сите други можности кои што денеска беа презентирани. Ви благодарам многу на уште еднаш за изработениот извештај. Се надевам ќе биде патокас нашата натамошна работа и ви благодарам на сите за учеството на оваа денешна средба.
Wishing you all a happy afternoon and happy the rest of the day, and goodbye.